China is on a roll in humanoid robotics, putting serious pressure on the US. UBTech of China just crossed a line most people thought was still years away. This one is not just another humanoid robot by UBTech. This is the UWorld U1, a full-size, ultra-bionic machine that can be customized to look and sound like a real person, even someone who's no longer here. On June 30th, 2026, in Shenzhen, China, UBTech unveiled the UWorld U1 series, their first mass-produced, full-size humanoid built specifically for homes and emotional companionship. 3 versions: the U1 Lite, just a torso, the U1 Pro, and the top-tier U1 Ultra, a full-body powerhouse. Pricing starts at around 119,800 renminbi, roughly 16 to 18,000 US dollars. And here's the kicker. They already have over 13,000 orders on launch day. Now, full-size humanoids aren't new. Tesla's Optimus is out there. Figures bots are in warehouses. But the U1 isn't designed for factories. It's designed for your living room. And that changes everything. Let's talk hardware first, because this thing is a marvel of engineering. The U1 has 88 degrees of freedom. That's more than most industrial robots twice its size. Biomimetic skin that flexes and wrinkles. Realistic blinking eyes with individual eyelashes. And a dual pivot neck that tilts and turns just like yours. It can replicate up to 90% of fundamental human movements. But the real leap isn't in the joints. It's inside the skull. An emotion-aware AI that can detect over 20 fine-grained emotional states with over 90% accuracy. Speech-to-lip synchronization in just 20 milliseconds, so fast you can't see the delay. A dual fast and slow brain architecture, one for reactive responses, one for thoughtful conversation. And a persistent memory system so it actually remembers you, your stories, your moods, your life over time. This isn't just a chatbot on 2 legs. This is the first consumer robot that can learn who you are and adapt to you emotionally. But that leads us to the part that's making people uncomfortable. Here's where it gets complicated. UBTech openly says some of these robots will use 3D facial reconstruction and voice replication to recreate designated people. That means a robot that looks and sounds exactly like your dear one who passed away, your child who lives on the other side of the world, your spouse who works 80-hour weeks. They're calling it the Human-Robot Companionship Initiative. And they aren't stopping at sales. They plan to donate 100 customized U1 robots in 2026 to children without parents, lonely elders, and vulnerable families. Now imagine a grandmother who lost her husband of 50 years. She brings home a U1 programmed with his old home videos, his voice recordings, his laugh. It tells the same jokes. It hums the same songs. But then she asks it a question he never answered in life. Do you think I was a good wife? And the robot has to generate a response from nothing. That's where the uncanny valley becomes an ethical canyon. Critics are already sounding the alarm. They warn this could deepen social isolation rather than cure it, replacing messy, imperfect human contact with a perfect simulation that never argues, never leaves, and never disappoints. Dr. Sherry Turkle, MIT's renowned psychologist, has spent decades warning that we're trading the complexity of real relationships for the comfort of artificial ones. And the U1 is her nightmare made manifest. But UBTech isn't building this in a vacuum. They know exactly what they're responding to. China has over 90 million adults living alone, 118 million empty nest seniors, parents whose children have moved to cities for work, and an estimated 10 to 20% of people living alone are struggling with mental health issues. The company sees a massive market, projecting this sector to grow into the trillion RMB range in the next decade. It's cold economics, but it's also something deeper. In a culture where filial piety, the deep-rooted duty to care for one's parents, is still a cornerstone of society, a robot that can tend to aging relatives feels less like a cold replacement and more like a stopgap. A way to preserve a sense of family connection when distance, time, or death makes real presence impossible. But is a simulation of care the same as care itself? That's the question no one has answered yet. This is no longer about robots folding laundry or working in factories. This is about replacing human connection. Will these robots genuinely help lonely people? Or will they trap them in artificial relationships? Comfortable, predictable, but ultimately hollow? Early studies on companion robots in Japan suggest something fascinating. People do develop genuine emotional attachments. Some elderly patients even prefer the robot's predictability to the complexity of human visitors. They feel safe. They feel heard. And there's preliminary evidence that it reduces stress and depression in the short term. But what happens over 5 years, 10 years? When your companion robot knows your insecurities, your fears, your darkest moments, better than any human ever has. We're not just building machines anymore. We're building mirrors. And mirrors can lie. Are we ready for machines that can read our emotions better than most humans? And more importantly, what happens when that technology is owned by a corporation? When your grief becomes a subscription model? Here's my take. I'm not going to sit here and say this is purely evil. I've seen what loneliness does to people. One of my knowns spent his last years talking to a television because no one had time to visit. If a robot could have given her even a fraction of comfort, I can't say I'd have refused it. But I also know that human connection is built on imperfection, on arguments, misunderstandings, forgiveness, and the messy work of truly knowing someone. A robot that always agrees, always listens, always says the right thing? That's not connection. That's a mirror designed to flatter you. And that's dangerously seductive. Love it or fear it. The age of emotional humanoid robots is no longer science fiction. It's happening right now in China, and it's coming everywhere else soon. The question isn't if we'll use them. It's how we'll use them, and whether we'll forget what real connection actually costs. Would you want a robot that looks like someone you lost? Or does this cross a line we shouldn't touch? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I genuinely want to hear them. If you want more deep dives on robotics and AI, hit subscribe and turn on notifications.